Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
And what is up, you guys? Welcome to the stream as the New York Mets get ready to take on the Los Angeles Dodgers for Game 2 of their series. Thrilling, nail-biting victory on Monday night. If you stayed up late enough to watch that one on the East Coast, God bless. I guarantee you don't have any fingernails left. I know I don't. That one was crazy as they just barely outlast the Dodgers in 10 innings, despite Edwin Diaz blowing his first save of the year. The Mets offense coming through in the top of the 10th inning, and then Jose Butz nails, bailing out Jose Castillo at the end of that one. Really great way to start off this 4-game set with the Dodgers and this road trip that they are on. But the real big news today, of course, is Ronny Mauricio getting the call. Part of that because Mark Vientos going out of last night's game, running down the first base line in the 8th inning, falling down, and now with an apparent hamstring injury as he has been set to the 10-day injured list, and in his place, Ronny Mauricio, the former top prospect of the Mets, is with the team, and it is in the starting lineup tonight at third base. Very, very exciting to see Mauricio for the first time now since 2023. So we're going to get into that and the rest of this game tonight. Hopefully you'll be staying up for a little Mets After Dark, a little Tony After Dark as well. I don't think I'll be doing a post-game stream. I mean, I was up working on TikToks and other YouTube stuff until 1:30 in the morning last night, trying to keep an eye on the game as well. But don't think we'll be doing a post-game stream after this one. But let's talk about the game, or not the game today. First, let's start with Ronny Mauricio. So we have been talking about Mauricio, it seems, forever. So the Mets signed Mauricio in 2017, at that time to the most expensive international free agent deal the Mets had ever dealt, $2.1 million. Previous to that, it was Ahmed Rosario in 2012. It's obviously now changed hands since then, but we have been looking at Mauricio as a top prospect in this organization for a number of years, and he just kept ascending through the minor leagues, doing a little bit of everything. Very toolsy player, and finally, we got to see what he had at the big league level in 2023, a lost season for the Mets. But the little silver lining in it all was Mauricio coming up in September and not having amazing stats, but definitely showing off some of those tools that I'm talking about. So we know he's a big guy, 6'3". He's not exactly the most built dude of all time. He is still young, and there's an opportunity for him to put on more weight. But what we do know is huge power from the left side of the plate. He is a switch hitter. Left-handed batter's box is definitely where he's more comfortable. Not as good of a hitter from the right side of the plate, but lots of power, can tap into that. We know he's a big dude, like I said, and actually came up as a shortstop in this organization, but that's typically what happens with the taller, lankier kind of guys. They usually get moved off of middle infield positions and put into one of the corner infield or corner outfield positions. So that's what he did when the Mets did call him up in 2023. Played a lot of second base, a little bit of third base mixed in there, and even played some left field as well. But what we do know about Vientos, like I said, he was the Mets' #1 prospect at one time, and then he tapped out as the number 53 overall prospect in all of baseball. So all really good signs there. Scouting profile on him, like I said, plus power, elite arm. Doesn't have great plate discipline, though, which is what we came to find out very quickly in his short time in the majors. In September of 2023, over 29 games, he had a .248 average, which, again, you know, if you're just looking at the traditional stats, they're not exactly going to scream, wow, this guy's going to be an all-star, unbelievable. But it was more about seeing that potential that he has with the speed that he boasts, with the power that he has. He had 2 home runs, drove in 9 RBIs in a small sample size. It was actually 26 games, 108 plate appearances, .248 average. OBP, very low, obviously, just .296, and the OPS came out .2643. But, I mean, we're talking about a kid's first cup of coffee. He was 22 years old at the time, and we were thinking, wow, this guy's a shoo-in to be on the 2024 roster, a guy that might be able to be like the 2-hitter in this lineup, bring all kinds of electricity to the base pass, can play multiple positions in the field, and then he went out and tore his ACL. played in the Dominican Winter League. He was basically lining up to be the MVP of that Dominican Winter League in 2023. Tears his ACL, misses all of 2024, and we really didn't get great news on his rehab on that torn ACL. I mean, we kept hearing that it wasn't progressing the way the Mets were hoping. They never really used the term setback, but it wasn't going according to plan. So fortunately, Mauricio, despite being a little bit late arriving to spring training this year, did finally get put into the Gulf Coast League, the Rookie Ball League, ascended to Binghamton, and all he did was hit, and that continued all the way up through Syracuse, where he had like a 550 average, an OPS of 1,300, a couple of homers, and just hitting lasers all over the field. Now, despite that, David Stearns had continued to say, we're only going to call Mauricio up when there's a need. And then last week on Friday before the Rockies series, Stearns said, well, guys keep hitting lasers like Mauricio is hitting, and we can't ignore it any longer. And then finally, the need met the the need met the results that Mauricio was putting out there, producing. And Vientos unfortunately goes down. Hopefully that is not a serious injury. Obviously, we know it's been a struggle for Vientos here in his sophomore season. He's been getting a little bit better at the plate lately, but we need Mark Vientos at his best if the Mets want to go far. But in any terms, the Mets bring Mauricio up to replace him, and he is in the starting lineup tonight, playing third base. What's up, guys? Welcome to the stream. I'm Tony Metro. If you guys are new, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Leave this video a like. Really goes a long way toward helping out the channel. Right now, we're talking Ronny Mauricio getting called up to the Mets, replacing Vientos on the roster, who goes to the injured list after hurting his hamstring, falling down, running the first base in last night's Mets win over the Dodgers. So I am stoked about this. I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comment section. Scale 1 to 10. How are you feeling about Ronny Mauricio getting the call? We've been talking about this for a long time. And really what we weren't sure of was who was going to be the guy that gets sent down to eventually bring Ronny Mauricio up to the major league roster. And the thing that made the most sense, the clearest path for Mauricio to get brought up to the majors, was to send Luis Angel Acuna down, which personally I didn't want to do because I still believe in Luis Angel Acuna, and at the very least, he brings speed and he brings great defense at a couple different infield positions and even center field in a pinch. But we don't even need to have that conversation anymore, again, because of the Vientos injury. So now we just add another guy that's supposed to be super dynamic, supposed to have all kinds of flair and speed in the field, on the base pass, and raw power from the left side of the plate. So let's talk a little bit about Mauricio. We know he debuted in 2023, and what did he do for an audition? His very first major league hit rockets a double to right field, 117.3 miles per hour off the bat. That was actually the highest exit velo of any Mets hit in 2023. So he's drawn a lot of comparisons to guys like Elly De La Cruz, O'Neal Cruz. Some of it, I think, just because of his stature, because he has a similar body type to those guys, but he has that raw power. I mean, he is hitting absolute lasers off the bat. So I think that's where a lot of people kind of see the comparisons to the two Cruzes in the Central. But taking a look at his scouting grade. So hit scouting grade for him, this is all out of 60. He is a 45. Power, a 60. Run, 45. Arm is a 60. His fielding is a 50. Overall, a 55. So an overall scouting grade of 55 is, really solid. That is like, this dude could be a star player. He might even have a higher ceiling than that, but it seems like the floor is going to be at least an extremely capable starting player. So that's usually what tells me we're going to get from a guy with a 55 scouting grade. Obviously, you got to love he's the switch hitter, but we know the right side of the plate, not really Mauricio's strong suit by any means. But going back to the scouting grades, two guys that I came up with that had very similar scouting grades when they were coming up through the minor leagues. One of them I really like, the other one not so much. And I promise you, it's not because of the team he plays for, but maybe just a little bit. But the two guys I came up with, number one, the one I like is Willy Adames. So very similar scouting grades. Let's run through his really quick. Willy Adames had a 45 hit, same as Ronny Mauricio. Power was a 55. Mauricio is actually a little bit better at 60. Adames had a run score of 45. That's the same as Mauricio. His arm, 55. Mauricio has a grade of 60. Fielding, 55 for Adames, 50 for Mauricio. So that's actually the only thing that Adames has better than Mauricio in their scouting grades. And again, this is all prior to Adames making it to the big league level. But you take a look at Adames, and he is clearly a star player. You know, started out with the Rays, got traded to Milwaukee, had a really solid season for them, and now he's become an exceptional power hitter that plays great defense at shortstop. Not the most athletic player, but definitely a star player for sure, and I think a bargain of a contract for what he signed with San Francisco. So if Ronny Mauricio could turn out to be even half of what Willy Adames is, then we are in very, very good shape. Now, the other player comparison, and again, this is all based on their scouting grades prior to them coming to the major league level. So all what they saw in the minor leagues was Jazz Chisholm. I don't like Jazz Chisholm. I've never been a fan of him. It's not because he was on the Marlins and now because he's on the Yankees. I've just always thought he was a totally overhyped, overrated player. He has very similar grades, though, as Ronny Mauricio. It's 50 for the hit. It's 45 for the power. It's 40 for the run. Arm is 55. Fielding is 50. So Mauricio basically edges him out in all of those except for the hitting scouting grade. But I mean, look, if he turns into Jazz Chisholm, like, no, not a terrible thing. He's obviously a starting player in the big leagues, but we have bigger expectations than that for Mauricio. Again, this guy was the #1 prospect in the Mets system at one point. They had handed him the most expensive international free agent contract in the organization's history back in 2017, and at one point was the number 53 prospect in all of baseball. So it's really exciting, especially it just seems like it's been forever. 2023 feels like 4 years ago when you see how 2024 went and all the hijinks and craziness that was the 2024 Mets. So this is really, really exciting. And I've been saying it for a while, like, not that he would immediately fix everything in this lineup, but you bring in a guy that has pop, that has speed, could totally jumpstart and ignite this offense. I like where he's hitting in the lineup tonight, batting 6th and playing 3rd. Kershaw is on the mound, though, and we're going to get to him in a minute. I'm a little surprised, to be honest with you, that Mauricio does get the start tonight because, like I said, much better from the left side of the plate than he is from the right side of the plate. Obviously, we know Kershaw, one of the most dominant southpaws in baseball history. But really, really good stuff from Mauricio in AAA recently. He came up, like I said, as a shortstop. Super lanky, though, and I wasn't sure where would the Mets play him. You know, it seemed obvious with Vientos going down that he basically would assume that role of getting some starts at third base, DHing, and then obviously you could also put him over in second base. He's a natural shortstop, but you could put him pretty much on any of those other infield positions other than first base and get away with it. Even played a little bit of left field when he came up in 2023. So to get him start at third base right off the bat is pretty telling to me what the organization must think of him right now. They're probably pretty stoked about it, just like we are as fans. It's not an easy spot to be coming in, to have to fly across the country all the way to Los Angeles. And the first big league pitching that you're seeing in a year and a half is a Hall of Famer all-time great in Clayton Kershaw, but I am really, really excited to see it. But moving forward, it will be interesting to see how the Mets do plan to utilize Mauricio and still get him the at-bats that he needs, because we basically have to see this guy completely redevelop as a prospect. And now he's only going to be doing it at the highest of levels in Major League Baseball. You know, instead of AAA, instead of AA, no, he's 23 going on 24 years old now. So it's basically S or get off the pot time for Ronny Mauricio. Unfortunately, that's the case because of the injury that he suffered, missing all of 2024. But the Mets are going to give him his shot. I'm curious, are they going to play him every day? Is he going to be in there at third base like today and then tomorrow going to start at second base, or maybe go to DH, or will they venture and even give him a shot in left field as well? I'm not so sure how to do it personally. If you're asking me, I would say give him the everyday second baseman job. because Luis Angel Acuna has had every possible chance here in the first 2 months of the season to seize that opportunity. He's just not hit enough. He just has not gotten enough done at the plate to warrant putting him at second base every day. And I was an advocate for that. Like I've said, I'm done with Jeff McNeil. I don't need to see any more of Jeff McNeil. But Luis Angel Acuna, unfortunately, hasn't produced at a high enough level at the plate to put him at second base every day. So to me, it's basically going to be a similar role to what Acuna has right now, but also taking on what Mark Vientos was doing. And that means playing second base, getting starts there, but also going to get opportunities at third base. Here's the problem with it all. Beatty's a lefty. We obviously know he's much better hitting against right-handed pitchers than he is against lefties. But the same is true for Mauricio. He's better from the left-handed batter's box than he is hitting as a righty. So it's not exactly a great platoon situation as far as the third base position is concerned. So I wouldn't be surprised if we maybe see more Mauricio at third, get Acuna in at second, and still mix Jeff McNeil in there, and even Brett Beatty at second base when Mauricio is at third. But I'd like to see this guy basically starting 5 out of every 7 games. You know, it's at this point, let's see what he's got. Who knows how long Mark Vientos will be done for, but it kind of sounds to me like this is almost an audition for Ronny Mauricio now. You know, if it's only a 15-day injured list stint for Mark Vientos, then does that mean Ronny Mauricio's got 15 days to prove himself and basically say he's better than Luis Angel Acuna, and Luis Angel Acuna should be the one sent down to AAA when Vientos is ready to return? Now, a lot of people are saying, well, let's send Mark Vientos down to AAA, let him try to figure it out. He's having such a terrible year. I don't think that is the Mets thinking right now. And especially because when you look at Acuna and you look at Mauricio, they're almost carbon copies of each other. The only main difference is that Mauricio seems to have much more pop than Acuna. Now, we saw Acuna hit a couple home runs last year in September. It was kind of reminiscent of what Mauricio did for the Mets in 2023. But so far this year, Acuna hasn't really done anything. I mean, we know no home runs on the year so far, and it's just been in a massive slump of late. I'm actually going to pull up his numbers because of late it has been a real big struggle for Luis Angel Acuna. Like I said, still love everything he brings to this team. The speed. You saw him on second base yesterday as the ghost runner in the 10th inning, came around to score on Francisco Alvarez's double. Granted, most MLB players will score on that, but it was a good read from him. Went to tag, still able to score with ease on that one. He brings defensive versatility, especially in late innings, at not only second base, at third base as well. And as I always say, in an emergency, he's your best option at shortstop should something happen to Francisco Lindor. But we have not seen enough from Acuna at the plate, and that's the problem. Over his last 30 games, just a 228 average in 79 at-bats for Luis Angel Acuna, and it's really only gotten worse of late. His last 15 games, a 115 average in 26 at-bats, and his last 7 games, just 1 hit in his last 8 at-bats. So it has been a struggle for him without a doubt. Meanwhile, Ronny Mauricio was just tearing the cover off the ball in AAA, and we knew that eventually something would happen. He'd get the call. We just didn't know how, and the door is open with Vientos going down. When Vientos does return, though, I think he is absolutely coming back to the big league roster. I don't think the Mets are giving up on him at this point. I don't think they should give up on him at this point. We're talking a guy that just hit 27 homers last year, clutch home runs throughout October in the playoffs, and they don't think he's probably the guy that needs to go down to AAA and figure it all out. So this to me is a battle between Mauricio and Acuna for the next 2 weeks to see who will remain on the roster and basically split time at second base, with Mauricio getting some starts at third and maybe even DH as well. So really excited for tonight. It was a great win last night. If you stayed up for that one, credit to you. I did as well. It was a great one because they won. Had you stayed up till 1:30 in the morning and the Mets ended up losing that game, not so much fun of a Tuesday for you. But luckily the Mets able to hold on to that one and get the first dub of the series with the Dodgers. Now, speaking of them, let's take a look at tonight's pitching matchup. It's not a great one for the Mets. I'm just being totally honest with you. Clayton Kershaw owns the New York Mets. I am not being hyperbolic. This is just the truth. Clayton Kershaw has never lost to the Mets. Seriously. He is 11-0, has never recorded a loss to the Mets in his career. This is one spanning all the way back to 2008. This guy pitched at Shea Stadium, okay? So this is how long of a career it has been for Clayton Kershaw. 18 career starts against the Mets. He is 11-0 with a 2.00 ERA over 112 innings. It doesn't matter who has been in the lineup for the Mets. It doesn't matter if it were the dark years from 2010 to 2014, their World Series appearance here in 2015, or even more recently where they've obviously become a much better organization under Steve Cohen. Clayton Kershaw just seems to have the Mets number. So it's going to be a tough matchup for the entire Mets lineup just based on history. Obviously, that's not super telling considering it's a different guy. You know, we don't have Rod Barajas in the lineup tonight like we did back in 2010. But it's going to be a particularly tough one when you look at Ronny Mauricio. That's why I'm saying it's pretty interesting. They would start him first time back in the big league since August or September of 2023 against a Hall of Fame pitcher and doing it on the road after a 5.5 hour, whatever, flight across the country. Stoney, what's up, my man? How are you doing? Welcome to the stream. Appreciate you tuning in. How about that win last night? Big contributions from three unlikely heroes. I posted a video about it. You had Paul Blackburn. I mean, who would have thought going out, giving them 5 scoreless innings, retires Shohei Ohtani all 3 times, even strikes him out twice. I said before yesterday's game, if the Mets just got 4 innings, maybe 5 if we're lucky, of 2-run ball from Blackburn, I'd be more than satisfied. Totally over-delivered. Gave the Mets a great start in his season debut. Then you have Francisco Alvarez, who didn't have an RBI since May 4th. We are talking a full month, coming through with an RBI double to lead off the 10th inning and bring the ghost runner home. And then Jose Butto, looking like old Jose Butto from last year. He comes in after Jose Castillo struggles, only records 1 out. Tying run is at third base. It's actually at second when Butto comes in, but he gets a fly out from Will Smith and then fields the comebacker off the bat of Tommy Edman on his bobblehead night, by the way. So that made me feel so much better to end the game. So 3 unlikely heroes from last night. Awesome. I don't know. Did you stay up for that one? Stoney, love this so far. Aren't we 3-1? So yeah, we are 3-1. We have taken 3 of the first 4 from the Dodgers so far in 2025. And I mean, wow, like it has been the Mets pitching that has done it, obviously. The first couple games of the series, or really the first series of the season with them back at Citi Field last week, the Mets bats didn't do a whole lot, but the pitching did enough to win them 2 out of those 3 games. We know obviously what happened in the first game of that series where the Mets couldn't get a base hit in extra innings all the way through the 13th. And then the next 2 games got really good starts from David Peterson and from Kodai Senga. The Mets won both of those games, maybe by like 2 runs and then by 1 run, something along those lines. And then yesterday, you knew it wasn't going to be enough to just have 2 runs. I said that to the person I was watching with, that it wouldn't be enough. 2 runs would not be enough to win last night's game. And sure enough, the Dodgers tied in the 9th. But luckily, like I said, Alvarez coming through with that clutch hit, Francisco Lindor adding the key insurance run, and Butto closing the door. But yes, Stoney, you are correct. The Mets have taken 3 of the first 4 from the Dodgers here so far in 2025. And we got 3 more left. So I said it before the series, I would sign for a split 2-2 with the Dodgers this series. And I stand by that. I did not expect the Mets to win last night's game with Paul Blackburn making his debut. And I'm not going to lie, I was concerned and still am concerned about Tyler McGill making a start against the Dodgers tonight at Chavez Ravine. But even after getting that win yesterday, I'm still going to be fine if the Mets end up splitting this series. It is a tough opponent. The Dodgers are definitely not living up to the expectations. We saw it firsthand, one of their big money acquisitions this offseason. Tanner Scott has been horrific for them. The fans have completely turned on Scott. I was shocked to see that he had a 4.65 ERA entering the game last night, and immediately the Mets greeted him very rudely with the Alvarez double, the Lindor single. he did do well to keep it a 2-run game, not an impossible comeback in ghost runner extra inning baseball, but Tanner Scott has not been great. The Dodgers do have the highest average with runners in scoring position. That's what good teams do. It's something I want the Mets to improve on, something they've been much better at here so far in the early parts of June than they were in May and throughout the rest of this season so far. But I would still be okay with the Mets splitting this series, going 2-2 with the Dodgers, despite getting a win last night. Like I said, I mean, it's money in the bank at this point to get that win last night, with Blackburn making the debut that he did, with the pitching holding the fort down, the offense having a nice little rally there in the 10th inning. If you lose the next two, you win the 4th game, or if you win tonight, even if you lose the next two, the Dodgers are the defending World Series champions for a reason. They only added more talent to their team this year. They are still clearly the cream of the crop in the National League, along with the Mets, but no shame in splitting this series on the road without a doubt. Tony, as you said, the pitching has been great this year. Yeah, I mean, still have the #1 ERA in baseball, and that's combining both the starting staff and the relievers. You know, obviously really tough losing Minter and Danny Young, 2 key pieces in the bullpen. They're 2 lone lefties in the bullpen right at the same time, and the Mets have just basically navigated some really stormy waters there, where they were throwing out guys like Jose Urena and Genesis Cabrera and Chris Davinsky, and still somehow managed to get the job done and still retain the lowest ERA of all pitching staffs in Major League Baseball. So I'm stoked about that. Guys, what's up? If you're just joining the chat, we talked a little about Ronny Mauricio. He is starting at third base tonight against Clayton Kershaw for his season debut. First time in the big league since September of 2023. Of course, we know he was recovering from the torn ACL he suffered in the Dominican Winter League after that 23 season, missed all of 2024. But I'm really excited for it. Drop a number 1 to 10. How excited are you to see Ronny Mauricio? And let me know, where should he play for this team moving forward? We know he's starting at third base tonight, but do you see that as the everyday role? Personally, it's not going to be it, I don't believe, because we have Brett Beatty still, but I would like to see Mauricio starting at second base every day for this team, at least at the interim while Mark Vientos gets healthy, and then we figure it out from there. I think it comes down to either Acuna or Mauricio going back down to AAA at that point, if the Mets are not willing to part with Jared Young, which for whatever reason, there is an infatuation with this guy. I understand he's a lefty bat off the bench, but hey, Mauricio's a lefty and he's better from the left side of the plate, so maybe just don't let him hit right-handed anymore if you want that lefty bat off the bench. That's just me on that. But let's take a look at the rest of the Mets lineup tonight. Let me pull it up real quick. And also be sure to leave this stream a like if you guys don't mind. Really, really appreciate it. It goes a long, long way toward helping the channel. Always posting daily Mets content here, and you can also follow me on TikTok, where I post every day as well. Link to that is in the description below. I'm also on Twitter, Instagram, but I don't post much on Instagram because there's just not a whole lot of traction on that site anymore. It doesn't seem like. So whatever, they're lost. That's what I say. So it's a pretty typical lineup with a lefty on the mound. You got Lindor, of course, hitting leadoff. He has his 6th leadoff homer of the year, and crazy weird stat, 27 consecutive games where Francisco Lindor hits a home run, the Mets win. How that's possible, I do not know, but them's the stats, and I'm okay with it. So hope for another Lindor homer tonight. After him, DHing is Starling Marte in the 2-hole. Soto is in right field. He had a nice opposite field ground rule double last night. Pete Alonso hitting cleanup, followed by Brandon Nimmo out in left field. Tyrone Taylor in center, and then hitting 7th is our guy, Ronny Mauricio, playing third base. Behind him is Francisco Alvarez, and rounding things out at second base is Jeff McNeil. So a little surprised to see Jeff McNeil in there as well. You could have put Acuna in, but it's against Clayton Kershaw. I'm thinking, one rookie's enough in Mauricio. We don't need to also put Acuna in there as well. So maybe that is Carlos Mendoza's thinking there for getting Jeff McNeil in against Kershaw. But Lindor has absolutely been on fire. Stoney, you're totally 100% on that. 4 home runs now in his last 4 games. Had 2 on Friday against Colorado, had another on Sunday, and then, of course, leading things off last night against the Dodgers out in Los Angeles, has another He's got his numbers at a much healthier rate again. There was a little while there his batting average was dropping below 275-ish area, and his OPS was hovering around 780, 790, so below 800, which to me is too low for a superstar player. It's all back at healthy numbers, 850-ish OPS. Batting average is getting closer to the 290s now, so really, really happy to see that from Lindor. Really liked some of the bats and the swings that we've been seeing from Juan Soto. He has looked a lot more aggressive at the plate lately, which has been great to see. Still getting his walks and just hitting the ball with more authority and to all parts of the field. You know, the 2 home runs he hit in that series against the Rockies on Saturday and on Sunday, one was to left center field, the other one was to right center field, not trying to just dead pull that one and pulling off the ball on the outer half of the plate, as the broadcast has mentioned many, many times over the last couple of weeks. So really good sign there. And even Pete Alonso looked like he might have got a hold of one yesterday, just barely went foul. So good signs from the top big boys in the order of this lineup. But let's also take a look really quick at the Dodgers lineup, as they will, in fact, yes, see the return of Mookie Betts. So Mookie Betts missed the first game of this series. I think he missed the entire series over the weekend with the Yankees for the Dodgers with a stubbed toe. He had a little fracture in his toe, so he had been out of the lineup for the last couple of days. But he is back in it today, so obviously makes this task even more difficult for Tyler McGill and the Mets pitching staff. But like I've said, the Mets pitching, and Stoney has said, the Mets pitching staff has kept this Dodgers lineup in check, not only last night, but in that 3-game set back at Citi Field about a week or 2 weeks ago. So leading off is Ohtani. Betts is in there at shortstop. Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Will Smith back behind the plate tonight. Max Muncy, who is probably the Dodger I dislike the most. I just can't stand that guy. Andy Pages is a close second in that regard. Michael Conforto somehow continues to get starts for this team, which is just baffling to me. The dude is hitting below 200. Obviously, we know he's never really been the same since that 2021 season with the Mets, but the Dodgers are trying to continuously press those buttons with Conforto. He is in there at left field. And then you got Hae-Sung Kim over at second base, rounding things out. So to me, it's going to be a tough one to win, honestly, if I'm just being totally honest. Kershaw's on the mound, absolutely dominates the Mets in his career. You got Tyler McGill, who has really been struggling for the most part lately. His last start out was not so terrible, but obviously not to the level that he was pitching at his first 5 or 6 times through the rotation here in 2025. I think it's going to be a tough one. You got Mookie Betts back in the lineup, who's probably just gearing and ready to go. I would not be totally distraught if the Mets end up losing this game. Like I said, I entered this series saying, let's go 2-2 in this series. They're already halfway there. I did not think they were going to win last night with Blackburn on the mound. He absolutely shut me up on this. So maybe Tyler McGill does that to me right now tonight as well. And if that's the case, now you're playing with total house money. You win the first 2 on the road in LA. You'd obviously like to at least get 3 or 4 at that point, but I'd still, even then, sign for 2 out of 2. The Dodgers are just a insane team. So Stoney and Lindor, I think, leads Mets in home runs so far. He does. So that was, I believe, his 14th home run of the season. He is on pace for like a 38 home run season this year. If he keeps going the way that he has so far, Lindor is about somewhere in the 37 to 38 range, with that healthy batting average in the 280s, 290s, and OPS around 800s, 850s. I mean, he'll unfortunately not win MVP because Shohei Ohtani plays in the National League and he's a freak. He hit his major league tying 23rd home run last night. He is just unbelievable. So it's unfortunate. They will always side with the Dodgers. They will always side with Ohtani, even if the numbers were comparable, even if the Mets had a better record than the Dodgers. They will still give it to Ohtani. So it's unfortunate, but yeah, Francisco Lindor has been unbelievable this year. I mean, just turned on the switch, basically going back to last season, the second half. After that players only meeting, he has been just producing at a total MVP level. Lindor has been tremendous. They would not be even close to where they are without him. They would not have the best record in baseball, wins and losses, since last June 1st, if not for Francisco Lindor. I mean, put the C on his chest already. Like, I'm not getting all crazy about that. I don't actually care that he's not officially captain because he already basically is the captain. But the guy has just been unbelievable for this team. Tony says, what time did the Mets play Thursday? Tony, I know they played late tonight. Yeah, so late tonight. So if you're on the East Coast, it's a 10:10 start time for you out there. I believe Thursday the Mets and Dodgers play an afternoon game. So if it's a 1 p.m. game on the West Coast, let's just double check here. So it is a 1:10 start on Thursday, meaning it is a 4:10 start in New York for the Mets on Thursday, which is actually great because, I mean, basically you get done with work or if you're in school or whatever it is, and basically the Mets are starting almost immediately or shortly before you get done with all that stuff. So that'll be really great. We'll definitely have a post-game stream after Thursday night's game, recapping that one and whatever transpires here in the rest of this series as well. So definitely be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn channel notifications on so you know when I'm going live or post new stuff like tonight's video right here. But I figured we'd do a quick little pre-game chat. Obviously, everyone will most likely be asleep by 1 in the morning by the time tonight's game is over. But drop a comment in the section over here. Let me know, what are you guys feeling about this game? Do you think the Mets pull this one out with Tyler McGill on the mound? Do they finally deal Clayton Kershaw his first loss against the organization in their history? I don't know, man. I mean, the dude is immortal. Like, he always misses some time. You know, it's been about 7-8 years now for Clayton Kershaw where he's going to miss at least a month, sometimes longer throughout a season. But anytime he seems to come back and he's pitching against the orange and blue, he figures it out and he looks like vintage Kershaw. I was actually at a game, Mets-Dodgers 2016. It was Bartolo Colon going up against Clayton Kershaw, and Kershaw was perfect through 5. And I was like, oh my God, this is really how it's going to happen. I'm going to see a perfect game, but it's going to be against the Mets and in Los Angeles. That would have been torture. Fortunately, that was not the case. The Mets did at least get a hit. I don't remember if they actually scored any runs, but there was no perfect game. So that was great. I did not want to be tortured like that. But Kershaw, yeah, like I said at the beginning of the stream, career 11-0 against the Mets in 18 starts, a 2.00 ERA over 112 innings. So let's see if the Mets can finally, after 16 odd years, get to Clayton Kershaw. There's been many different variations of Mets teams. Like I said, there's no Jason Bay in this lineup or Reese Havens or Ike Davis's, but Kershaw has something going for him when he is facing the New York Mets. Yeah, Jimmy, this is pretty funny. So I just got onto Twitter a little bit earlier, and Mike Puma, one of the Mets beat reporters for the New York Post, had a picture of Dodger Stadium's field covered with a tarp. So apparently, yes, there was some rain out in sunny Southern California. I'm guessing it probably didn't last long. I think the tarp is off at this moment. We're about, an hour and 20 minutes away from first pitch. So there's no chance this game's getting rained out. I can promise you that. I used to live in LA for a number of years. When it rains there, it does for about 15 minutes, and then it's done for the next 5 months. So yes, the game will definitely be played, but it was in fact raining there, and they did have the tarp on the field at Dodger Stadium. So it seems pretty fishy, right? I guess it just kind of is following the Mets wherever they go, right? They're taking the lousy weather with them. I don't know what that's all about, but let me know in the comments, guys. How do you feel about tonight's game? Drop your prediction for Tyler McGill's final line tonight. And give me a prediction for Ronny Mauricio's batting line tonight. What does he do? Like I said, it's a tough matchup against Kershaw, especially because Mauricio is a far better left-handed hitter than he is right-handed hitter throughout his minor league career and at the big league level. So drop your prediction for Ronny Mauricio's stat line tonight. Does he get his first base knock of the season tonight? Maybe even pop a homer? I would love to see the FanDuel odds on that one, because that is something that I bet you could get some real good money for. Let's actually take a look at that real quick. See if we can find odds on Ronny Mauricio popping a home run today here in his first MLB start since September of 2023. That would be really, really a good money, return on money, if they have it available. But I want to hear from you guys. Definitely let me know. I'm not a big betting guy, but every now and then, you know, I'll throw a couple shekels out there, see what they got. Yeah, Puma said in his tweet, they need a roof at Dodger Stadium. Yeah, I don't know about that, but he's obviously being, you know, tongue-in-cheek, a little coy about it all. But yeah, pretty funny. Go Shohei. What are you talking about? Jimmy. Okay, I see. Jimmy Japan. It makes sense. So if you're watching from Japan, hello. Thank you for joining the stream. Shohei is a ridiculous player. You know, you can't discredit him for that. He is unbelievable, but it is so hard to watch considering he's on the Dodgers. I wish he would have stayed with the Angels or had gone to Seattle where it would not affect me or my team, but unfortunately, Shohei Ohtani is on the National League, one of the chief rivals of the Mets when competing for a World Series now and in the future. So it is tough to root for Shohei Ohtani if I am being completely honest, but you obviously cannot understate what a talent he is and great for baseball. So, like I said, it was going to be a short little stream here tonight. Just wanted to check in, talk a little Ronny Mauricio, but do drop your stat predictions for Mauricio tonight. Do you think he gets his first hit tonight? I'm going to just real quick before we wrap things up, try to find that FanDuel and see what the sports book is on him for a first home run here tonight. They definitely have some information on his knee surgery, which is okay, not all that important, but Ronny Mauricio to hit a home run tonight in his first start since September of 2023. Is that an available bet? I would love to know. Let's see. We're working on it. Stick with me here. Stick with me. I'm not, like I said, super experienced with any of this. So, to hit a home run tonight, Ronny Mauricio is plus 750. So $10 would win you $75. 100 would win you $750. So I mean, look, if you're a betting guy, $10 on Ronny Mauricio to pop one out of the stadium tonight, I don't think it's gonna happen. I'm gonna be honest, but I might throw the $10 down just because, hey, why not? Why not? It's newfound money if he somehow does it. So again, it's going to be tough from the right side of the plate and against Clayton Kershaw, but crazier things have happened, and this guy just kind of seems to have a flair for the dramatic. I saw that when he came up in September of 2023. So will be interesting to watch. But guys, that is going to do it for right now. I appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you to Stoney. Thank you to Jimmy Japan for joining as well, and everybody else. Be sure to leave this stream a like. Really helps the channel. And subscribe and turn channel notifications on if you haven't already, so you know whenever I'm going live and post new content here on my channel. But Mets and Dodgers underway in just over an hour on the West Coast. Hopefully you're staying up late for that one, and me too, and hopefully it is another Mets win and they take the first two of this series. We'll have more content tomorrow here on the channel and on my other platforms like TikTok. Again, links to those in the description below. Go check those out. That is it for tonight though, guys. I am Tony Metro. Until next time, stay true to the orange and blue.